check out Night Dream's website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com.
Hey, this is Gary from Night Dreams Talk Radio. I want to welcome a new sponsor to our show, PhoenixShaving.com. I know what you're thinking, right? Oh, another disposable razor company. Well, the fact is they're not. You remember the razors that your father and his father shaved with? Did you ever notice they didn't have, well, the embarrassing razor burn or ingrowing hairs or the razor bumps after they shaved? Did you notice they were also relaxed after they were done shaving? Well, the problem is these big corporations want to sell you razor after razor after razor. Think about how much money you spend a year on razors. Or do you use electric razor? Then you're going to find out what razor burn is. So you need to check out Phoenix Shaving Starter Kits. They come complete with the soap, the brush, and a 2.5-month supply of blades, and the most important part of it, a all-metal razor, built to last generations. So, hey, you can donate it to one of your sons when they turn 18. Check out PhoenixShaving.com and tell them that Gary from Night Dream said, hey, I want one. That's PhoenixShaving.com now.
You're listening to Night Dreams Radio with Gary Anderson.
Hey, that is me. Hey, tonight we have Mike on the, as a guest on the show. What does owls and UFO abductions have in common? And what does 2006 have in common? And Mike, are you there?
I'm right here.
Well, how's your day going?
Very good.
Almost. Okay. Well,
very good. You surprised. Yeah, I'm right here. So yeah, so you surprised me a little bit. I made the terrible mistake, and but I'm here now. So I apologize. I forgot the time, and or the date. Excuse me. But you caught me, and it's going to be perfect.
Okay, great. So why don't you tell everybody what you do, who you are, and then after you do that, tell everybody what happened in 2006.
I have been researching UFOs and owls now for 12 years, and that came from a first-hand experience. Up until then, I'm 55 now. I'll be 56 next month. I have been I've been doing this full time, the research, since 2006, basically. And in 2006, I had an event that really, on some level, didn't have anything at all to do with UFOs. So for giving myself over to UFO research, this is kind of an odd beginning. What happened was I was living at the time. Presently, I'm living in upstate New York. At the time, I was living in rural Idaho, right near the Grand Teton National Park border, right near Wyoming, right near Yellowstone, actually. There's a sort of corner there where they all meet together. I had met a friend, this woman who we've become good friends with over the years, and I said, let's go camping. It was autumn. It was a lovely day, and she was sort of a stranger at the time. So this was, in a way, it's not really unusual given the sort of environment there, but it was sort of a first date. And we went camping for one night in the mountains, in the Tetons, and this involved walking, in the afternoon, and we hiked with very, very light packs. The weather was going to be lovely, lovely weather. There was no reason to bring a tent. We were going out for one night. So we, our plan was just to sleep out under the stars. And after a few hours, we got pretty deep into the mountains and were in this beautiful, glorious meadow. And she was talking about something. And I remember right in the moment thinking, wow, I'm impressed. I didn't expect this. There was a level to the intensity of what she was talking about that surprised me. And right at that moment, an owl flew over. And then a second owl. And then a third owl. And these owls flew around during the twilight and well into the darkness. And there came a point when we actually laid our sleeping bags down on the ground and laid on our backs and looked up at the sky and the stars, the beautiful, glorious, high Rocky Mountain stars. And there was a point when the stars would be blotted out for just 1 second. And these owls were flying right above our faces. They fly very quiet. And it was absolutely magical.
Yeah, I mean,
the next morning we got up. Oh, go on.
I'm saying you don't see owls that much anymore. I mean, to see a whole bunch of them like that, that's unique.
It's not unheard of, but it's very unusual. Now, to make the story stranger, I said, hey, this was a lovely camping trip the next morning. Let's do it again. I go out for one night all the time, which I do. Let's go. If I go again, I'll give you a call. So 4 days later, I called her and she said, yes, I'll go. So we went to a completely different part of the mountains. This time was a little bit colder, so we had a shelter. We had a tent. And it was cold enough that I said, before we get in the tent, let's walk up to that hilltop. We'll warm up, right? We'll take a little walk. The tent was all set up. So we'll walk up to this hilltop, and then we'll come back and climb in the tent. We won't be kind of cold. It was windy and cold. And we get to the top of this hilltop, and the sun sets, and an owl lands, and a second owl flies above us.
Oh, wow.
And a third owl perches on a branch. So 4 days later, with the same person, her name is Kristen, and I'm convinced it's the same three owls. I don't know why I say that. It's just an impression I have. Now, this to have it happen once was pretty cool, but to have it happen twice was kind of flipped me out a little bit. Now, the second time, the owls were much, much closer. They were landing right at our feet, right in the branches nearby. And what I say now, which I didn't say then, is I heard a voice in my head. It could have been my own voice, could have been my own inner thoughts, but the voice was very clear. It said, looking at these real owls, sitting on the ground right next to me, it said, this has something to do with the UFOs. Now, leading up to this point, I had been reading a lot of UFO books, and I had several stories, mostly from my youth, that certainly implied UFO, I'll just say it, UFO contact. I had missing time. I had close-up UFO sightings. I even had an event where I woke up in the middle of the night and looked out the window and saw 5 gray aliens out my bedroom window. Now,
how old were you when you saw those aliens out your window?
I was 30 when I saw the aliens out my window. And when I had the close-up UFO sighting, I was 12, and I also, right around that same time, I had a missing time experience with an associated odd light in the sky, and I would have been 12 also. That would have been 1974.
Okay. Now, can you describe what the aliens looked like, the grays?
They were skinny and bald and big heads and black eyes. They looked exactly like the quintessential gray alien that is on every lunchbox and bumper sticker and snowboard. What I was seeing had big black eyes, and they were walking towards the house. This would have been the winter of 1993. They were backlit by a bright light, and that's what actually woke me up, was the bright light. I sat up in bed, and from where the bed was positioned, I could look right outside. And they were kind of next to the driveway, and the bright light was kind of off to the side in a little open spot near the driveway. Now, it would have been perfect, right, if the bright light was like a landed flying saucer. It wasn't. It was just a bright light source.
Now, were they carrying anything, or just just walking?
Not that I remember they were carrying anything, and they were walking towards the house. And what happened was, I heard a voice in my head that said, "Oh yes, they're here. Now is the time to shut down and put your head on the pillow." And that's exactly what I did. I just put my head on the pillow, and poof, it felt like I went right to sleep. Now, this is very unusual. I should have freaked out. I should have panicked. I should have locked the doors. I didn't. I simply was in this sort of sucked dry of emotions, and I just laid down and went to sleep.
Well, maybe they, hypnotize you, somehow, where when they told you put your head on the pillow, you obeyed what they told you to do, and they wanted you to go to sleep, for they could abduct you.
That is a very reasonable conclusion given all the literature that's out there, and that's pretty much what I think. What is unusual is the thought of, oh, yes, they're here. I've actually tried some hypnosis on this event, and I haven't gotten very far. What I did feel was that this was through hypnosis, as well as this was my memory at the time, that these entities were they felt familiar. They felt like, oh, yeah, it's them again. They're here, they're there, it's them again. It was a very calm feeling of like, oh, they're back. So that was highly unusual for me.
Well, maybe when you were younger, as a child, you could have been abducted too.
Well, I would have been 30 at that time. But I would have been 30 at the time of the event and that's the implication. Certainly, that's the implication, is that familiarity implies that this had been a lifelong thing. Now, so turn the clock back to 2006. This was at a point when I had these events in my life. I was not looking into them. I was not going to pay attention to these things. I was not going to deal with it. I was in denial. I was just, no way, not me, no how. I ain't going there.
Well, I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to go there.
Oh, I don't blame myself either. But at the same time, it was like having the tea kettle on the stove, right? Like right before the tea kettle whistles, there's like this palpable sense of the water just about to come to a boil. And that was my life around 2006. I knew that I had to look into these events, and I did not want to. I was denying. I was pushing it away. I was procrastinating, and those owls, more than anything, pushed me over the edge.
Now, has anybody mentioned that those owls might not have actually been owls, that they could have been like shape shifters?
Well, the term they use in the UFO literature is screen memory. Oh, absolutely. I have wrestled with that. I have had UFO researchers tell me straight up. They've told me, like, what you saw wasn't an owl. And I said, I was there. They were little owls. They were owl size. They were doing owl things. Now, let's say that the psychic projection, the hypnotic abilities of the aliens may be so powerful that I would be seeing a little owl. I mean, it was like all of 11 inches high. It was a cute little adorable thing, and both of us were seeing them. And both of us were astonished, and they were doing owl things. They were landing on branches and flying around. So, yes, they may have been some sort of psychic projection. My memory and my feeling in the moment was that these were real owls. At the time, I was immersed in UFO literature. Mm-hmm. I was reading one UFO book after another, and I knew all about the
Okay, we just lost him here. So we'll have to give him a second here, and we'll try calling him back again. That's what happens. You get into something really exciting, and then boom, it's gone. That's the trouble, I think, with the internet and Skype. It can happen. So let's give him another call back and see if we can get him here again.
You there?
Yeah, sometimes when you talk something like this, the phones just kind of go boop, and that's it.
Oh, the busy little bees in the basement of the Pentagon are trying to stifle my journey here. So
or